from the Salvation Army National Headquarters,
this is the Fight for Good podcast.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fight for Good podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Foley, and we're so excited because today we're going to talk about the September 2020 issue of the War Cry. And with me here is our War Cry Editorial Director, Mr. Jeff McDonald.
Greetings, Colonel. It's good to be with you again at the end of August as this issue of September is on its way to its destinations.
You've made it through the summer. Amazing. And you've led your team to another successful production of the War Cry. A reminder to our listeners, we are still working remote. Our production team is doing this all within the amazing technology that's available to us now through our computers and through the Adobe Cloud and all kinds of different bells and whistles, Jeff, that you guys all use. You're pretty amazed by what's happening with your team.
Well, I think it's just not my team, but it's also we're tapping into the Army network across the country, which is vast. And, our technology allows us to do this, even though we are working remotely. And the thing is, our team, as we're committed to the mission of what our work represents. And that shows in our results.
And I say your team. I mean, it's our team, obviously, together. But part of your job duties here is to kind of be like coordinating the three-ring circus, so to speak, with all the details that it takes to bring, a fresh publication each month. And my continued gratitude to you and to everybody that's listed on our masthead. And all the stuff that's going behind the scenes. So it's great. I'm very excited about this issue.
Thank you, Colonel. And your participation is crucial. You're, kind of steering us in the right direction and giving wisdom. So thank you.
Well, you know me. I mean, I'm not a grammatician. I'm just kind of like I don't know. I just get excited about the opportunity of ministry, and this ministry is completely different than what I've done in my past almost 4 decades of doing this. So it's just a joy. And it's also a joy to once again be with our producer, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, good morning. Hello to you.
Good morning.
Well, as we said, this issue of the September War Cry is before us, and that is the focus of our discussion today. Jeff, I really, I just love what our design team is doing with the magazine overall. Tell us a little bit about the cover and kind of the thinking that's kind of going into some of the elements and the nuances that people may see, but they might even more than see, they might feel.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good point. When you think about design, editorial design are really one. The goal is the same. And every ingredient that we use, from typography to imagery to background colors to color schemes, etc., all need to be used in consort to reinforce the editorial message. And of course, securing good material for our design is critical. And in this case, our cover subject, Damien Horne, provided us with some intriguing images. And let's face it, people relate to stories, to individuals, and we're really pleased to have him on the cover.
Yeah, and we appreciate the interview. And Michelle Caceres has done a in-depth interview with Damien, who is I don't want to say he's a product of the Salvation Army, but certainly he has been part of the Salvation Army, and we're just really, really thrilled to have that featured. And Elizabeth, we do have a separate podcast coming up with Damien, correct?
We do indeed this month.
So that will be exciting for our listeners to consider. One of the things that there are a lot of different things that we kind of keep our finger on. Jeff, we are obviously we are reporting on COVID-19. The response to the Salvation Army donation-wise during the COVID epidemic has been simply amazing and remarkable. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Well, there's so many stories, and we didn't want to. We've covered that quite a bit I guess this is the 5th issue now we've produced remotely, and we have covered that subject in the past. There's so many efforts the Army is doing across the nation, across the world, also, and just hard to imagine all that these people are doing on the front lines and reacting creatively to the needs in their communities, and officers and salvationists are putting themselves out to reach out in new ways, to encourage people, to assist them. So we do ask for boldly for donations at this time, because certainly the Army is pushed to beyond its normal accountability and accounting to provide services. So we do refer to salvationarmyusa.org in the magazine so people can contribute and be part of this common cause.
The Salvation Army is a part of these communities across America, and where there's human suffering, and that suffering is just increasing, and it's as more people are struggling to stay in their homes and to even to be able to keep food on the table. We know that the Army is doing the best they can in these communities, and the support, the donation support of public and private companies and corporations is so important. We're very proud of the conduit that the Salvation Army has begun, and the hard work that men and women, volunteers, officers, soldiers, employees across this nation are doing, and we will continue to shout their praises and thank God for them and do all that we can.
To that point, Colonel, I know that competition for donation dollars is quite intense, and the Army doesn't put a lot of energy into marketing. It's rather uses funds for actual service. But one thing that is remarkable of what the Army does is it forms partnerships nationally, statewide, at the local level, with other agencies, other corporations, to deliver services and to really coordinate efforts at the community level. And those partnerships are valuable. So when people are giving to the Army, they're really also contributing to that kind of cohesiveness at the community level that involves many partners.
Jeff, quickly going through, highlight a few things. I'm very excited about the update on the fight against human trafficking. We have you were able to get some contributions from across the country on what the Army, in particular, we focused on the Eastern Territory and the Western Territory, what was going on there. Anything you want to highlight about that?
I'm so appreciative of these people contributing to our publication this way. Ariel Curry, Director of Anti-Trafficking for the East, and Stephanie Taylor, who is a program coordinator for the Army's anti-trafficking services in the West, both shared really heartfelt articles about this work. We include the data about what the Army's doing, touching over 4,000 individual survivors were assisted with over 24,000 nights of shelter last year. There's impressive stats of what the Army's doing across the country, and I think over 40 locations dealing with this terrible reality of sexual and economic trafficking. But they share from their heart, and they let us into their world through their writing about the gritty realism they deal with. Ariel Curry writes about, people ask her, what does she see as success? She says, we value getting a woman away from her trafficking or assist her in accomplishing her long-term goals. We also value individual baby steps, small successes. We see success as the same woman coming back through our drop-in center multiple times. Let's face it, entering into an unfamiliar space takes more courage when in your world you've been continually taken advantage of by strangers. So I just commend those two articles to readers.
We have a section that we've gotten a lot of good feedback on, and it's been exciting. It kind of just started in a little seed thought in my mind is like, who are people in the Salvation Army world, whether they're advisory board members, whether they're soldiers, whether they're officers, whether they're employees who may or may not be a Salvationist, that are really impacting the Salvation Army. And we title that influencers. And Jeff, you and I come of a different generation where the word influence means something different than what it does now. So we're actually like looking at that word because in our millennial section, there's the whole, as we've been educated by Elizabeth and Michelle, there's the whole subculture and the job of influencers. So I'm excited about this because I really want us to continue this, because I think there's so many people in the Salvation Army that do tremendous things. This issue, we have the bandmaster, the territorial director of music for the Eastern Territory, Mr. Derek Lance, who's the bandmaster of the New York Staff Band, and Major Swain, our assistant. He is in charge of these series. So there's some great things here with Derek, and I hope our readers and listeners will pay attention to that. And who knows, we may be pulling in some of our listeners into this down the road.
Yeah, we should. There's so many stories, and this is a great one. I mean, he's a Juilliard. He studied at Juilliard School, and this is a really interesting guy. It's interesting to see the values and backgrounds that people have in the Army.
We continue. I think we close out this issue. This is where we have our last cadet testimony, and we have Lieutenant Chanel Allen Debella. Anything you want to say about this story, or just kind of the overall concept of where we're going with that?
Well, I think it's a great story in that, who does not wrestle in their lives with what directions they have to take career-wise and life path-wise, and she certainly did. She had experience as a broadcaster, and it was her dream to be a major broadcaster on a major network. But she did not find that particularly fulfilling, and actually she was concerned about the road she was going down in that, pursuing that goal relentlessly. And then she came to a fuller understanding of what God wanted her to do and be. And I think these testimonies resonate so well with people, because we all ask ourselves these kind of questions at different points. And the surety with which these people respond to the call that God places on them to become officers is certainly informative and can be inspiring for us.
Again, we've already alluded to the cover and the article interview with Damien Horne by Michelle Caceres. Great little read there. Also, Michelle has our ongoing discussions with the millennials, and she has I guess Elizabeth is Natalie, an influencer. Do you know very much about her?
Yeah, so Natalie is an influencer. She was really huge on YouTube, and she still is. And she actually left her corporate job to start her own agency.
It's pretty amazing. So there's and in connection, and her podcast will be coming out later this month.
Yeah, we have much to learn from the millennials.
We have a good article because we're kind of focusing on kindness. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, and out of that comes the heart of kindness. So there's a great article here by actually we had is it 3 or 4 different articles?
Yeah, it's 3 voices about dealing with that subject, and just different perspectives on the the necessity of kindness, the importance of it, and what it really means. It's not a light, fluffy kind of take word to take for granted, but really has implications for our culture. And I think that comes through in these 3 stories.
We're continuing on with our new Bible study teacher, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Jennings, and we've done a podcast with him. You can look wherever you find your podcast. We've talked about his heart, what's going on with him and his wife and their new appointment in the Northern Division of the Central Territory. They're in the heart of the fray in Minneapolis, so you want to kind of dig that one out if you haven't listened to that podcast. But Colonel Jennings will be contributing throughout this year and up until next summer with a Bible study on Psalm 23. We hope our readers and listeners are encouraged by this classic psalm and what the good colonel is pulling out. Jeff, we have that one section on core values, and this is where we give a fond farewell to Major Lisa Davis, who is the Secretary for Spiritual Life Development for the Central Territory in the United States. We really appreciate Lisa. Again, we did a podcast with her that's already up, and you can talk a little bit more, but we appreciate the contributions that she has given to us.
Yeah, she's really great to work with, and we look forward to her further contributions, possibly down the road. She has a strong place in the Central Territory as a Secretary for Spiritual Life Development. And in this last installment, she deals with COVID and, where we're going. So that might be of interest to readers, too.
We continue with our Yo Soy tradition for our Spanish reading readers with a series by Commissioner Bill Francis. We're excited about that. And again, this is a section that in upcoming issues, you'll see some changes. In 2021, we have a new contributing writer. We don't want to share all of that right now, but we're excited about what happens with that. And those of you that use the magazine as a tool for evangelism, you want to refer our Spanish-speaking folks to this page where we have the how to come to Christ. The plan of salvation has been translated for us and by one of our staff members, and that's been placed there. So I'm excited about that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's exciting, and that's we hope to be innovative in our approach to that community as well.
People are interested in the history. The Salvation Army has a real significant following when it comes to the history. The Army's history is really riveting, unique. It's different, because we're spanning over 154 years now, starting through the Industrial Revolution and going through world wars and going through all kinds of different changes, and now modern day issues that we have. Elizabeth, you often point out how well on social media any post that we put up, even if it's a funky picture of your boss holding the guitar when he had hair.
That's a great photo. What a find!
I know, but it's kind of weird to be considered part of history, while you're still alive.
History in the making.
Yeah.
We're grateful to our staff member, Major Jason Swain, who is a natural historian, and he's he works with our archives department, and that's been an ongoing placement for the last year and a half in our magazine, the Highlights in History. So we encourage our readers to look there. Jeff, was there any other topics that we wanted to talk about?
Well, we've talked in the department frequently about the current climate in society in terms of the degradation of dialogue and the quick to judgment kind of reaction people have to events. So you wrote an article on that subject entitled Dirt Clod Culture, which is certainly timely. And you relate it to, the scriptural account of Jesus with the woman before the Pharisees. What led you to write that, Colonel?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that led me to write it. There's a toxicity. Is that the word? Right now, not viral, but viral, kind of feeling when, in particular, like on Twitter, how people are quick to judge, quick to cast diversion. It seems okay to make fun of how people look, how they speak, what they believe in, what their political stance would be. There just seems to be this feeling of quick, let's gather stones and throw it at this person. And I mean, it's such a deep subject, but it was interesting. I was finding a lot of rocks being thrown back and forth on my social media feed, in particular my personal Facebook, of people that I respect, that were kind of voicing things that I may not agree with, but the manner in which things were having, that were being kind of typed and text out there was pretty caustic, and it really wasn't. I don't think it was becoming of being a follower of Jesus, and in particular, if you remember the Salvation Army, where holiness of heart, holiness in our lives, is kind of, it's kind of tied very closely to grace and kindness, and being able to kind of listen with an open mind and not be quick to judge. So I've always been intrigued, Jeff, with the story of the adulterous woman. I guess it goes back to my theater days, because this was one of the first parables that I actually was a part of acting out in a summer camp. It was like a closing devotional piece that we did before I was an officer, and I can remember doing this with another actress and a couple of other actors. It was very powerful. So that image of this story that Jesus talks, just kind of, it's like I need to dust that off and just kind of say something about it. So that's kind of the background and the thought process that kind of comes for that.
I think it goes deeper, Colonel, because I know that you are very aware of the need for justice in situations, whether they be in the workplace, in homes, in the society. You're also, you have the gift of empathy. And, we have to wonder, where is empathy today? So this does have really good application for where we are, but how do we cultivate empathy in our world, among our children, among each other? And I think that's something that's close to your heart, that I see you act out, you live by it. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you bringing that to readers' attention.
Well, Jeff, I'm mindful that we have a voice of influence. We may not have power and whatever, and sometimes we might be not thought of, or it's an afterthought, whatever. But I know that each issue of our magazine has a significant place in the kingdom of God as it goes out and these words go out. So I'm mindful of, I don't want to get off on tangents and fads and superficial sort of things, but I'm also mindful that, these are important times right now for the church. We're dealing with mental health breakdowns of pastors. We're seeing people leave the church. We're seeing people leave the profession of public safety. We're seeing, kind of civility. We addressed civility in our last issue. We're kind of seeing these things disappear, yet I think those things are tied to our journey, our faith journey. And if we don't somehow reconcile that and kind of bring it into space, how can we listen? How can we agree to disagree? How can we kind of move forward in a sense of unity and a sense of hope to make these changes in our society? We're never going to do it if we're just battling text battles, out in Twitter land, and because you feel good hurling a stone at somebody through your words. It's just not godly. And so, I think towards the end, I said, let's be intentional about living the self-examined life. I've been doing the last few months. I've been doing a lot of examination. I was raised in a blue collar family and had a lot of different experiences that people may not associate with me, just because I'm a white man. But some of this stuff is real, and it's very gritty for me. So how does my faith ride above that? How do I engage in this world right now? And really what this world now needs, ambassadors of reconciliation and love. We don't need any more stones thrown. We don't need any more fingers pointed. And we have an opportunity in the Salvation Army to be agents of change in our communities. We just have to have the courage to walk across this bridge. We've talked about this before, and get out there and start talking with people that we may disagree with, or we can't just sit back and wait for somebody else to make it happen. We have the opportunity, but as we do, let's do it in a matter of grace and hope and kindness, and drop the rocks or the dirt clods, and do so in love. Reaching out to other people. I think that's kind of my passion. It will continue to be my passion.
You do it so well, Colonel. That's something that you do so very well. There's degrees of empathy, and not everyone has that, but it's something certainly to develop. I just read recently somebody described our current situation as the gift of collective desperation. We're all going through these challenges, society with the pandemic, etc. The idea of it being that, it is a time for self-examination, a time that we can come out of this better than we were before. And I think that's certainly the hope.
Well, just prior to this recording this, I just got out of a meeting with our ambassadors of holiness, the lovely Bill and Diane Uri, and we're talking about on the program side here, which is the other hat that I'm wearing, of trying to find ways that we can reach out and support our officer teams throughout the country, to bring them hope, to bring them light. And there's going to be some new stuff that we're in the petri dish right now, and probably later in the fall we'll be rolling out with encouraging. And you're right. I mean, empathy is just kind of there. It's in my heart, and I don't want my heart to get hard and callous by all of the toxic things that I'm seeing and reading, and even myself, disappointment with how people are approaching some of this, whether they're Christians or not. And I've worked hard in previous appointments to be an agent of change in communities and economic development, and involved in Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Chamber of Commerce, with city halls, and with police department, fire department, with recreation programs, whatever. There's so many different things that we have in the Salvation Army we have access to. I don't want to see us severing all those ties. I want to see us embracing and helping realize, we can be a part of the change, but we're not going to be a good ambassador if our hearts are filled with divisiveness and, that kind of thing. So hopefully that article will help a few people to kind of think. More importantly, I think it's just a great passage to reflect on, reminding us that, Jesus doesn't need our help judging other people. God doesn't need our help. He's got that all kind of covered. What he needs is for us to be the hands and feet of kindness and mercy and love in this day and age. And that's exciting. So it's just kind of there. So thank you. Well, that's going to end this episode of the Fight for Good podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to follow the War Cry and Peer Magazine on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. We are at thewarcry.org and peermag.org. Or is it peermagazine.org, Elizabeth?
It is peermag.org.
Peermag.org. Please click on those links. Leave some feedback for us. We want to hear from you. And we thank you for being a faithful listener. If you're a new listener to the Fight for Good podcast, we welcome you. And we are nearing 50 episodes already of this. So we're almost hitting our anniversary, right?
This is actually episode 51.
51.
Already?
We've done
It seemed
it.
like
We've
nothing.
made
It feels like
it.
yesterday that we were
I
doing it.
know.
We should have had pie and ice cream.
Oh, party hats, music, yeah.
Kazoos. I love a kazoo.
51. We are approaching almost our anniversary, aren't we? Because
We have actually passed our anniversary.
have we?
Oh,
Yeah. We launched it in August of last year.
Oh, my goodness. So
I know. Time flies.
Time flies. So that's great. Anyways, thanks for listening, and read the War Cry and share God's love with other people. Be kind to others and do all that you can to bring hope and change into this crazy world of ours that God so greatly loves. So until next time, this has been the Fight for Good podcast. Bye for now.
Subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts.